Niccolo Machiavelli spoke a truth that most men fear to accept. The world bends to the mind that commands itself. Before any throne rises in the physical world, there is a throne inside the mind, and only a rare few ever sit upon it. What you see around you, wealth, titles, crowds cheering names, these are shadows of power, not its birthplace. For true power is conceived far before the world ever witnesses it. It begins in thoughts sharper than steel, and in silence deeper than hunger. Look around you. You'll find men who look powerful, but shatter at the first taste of rejection. You'll see people walking with confidence that evaporates the moment their comfort is challenged. So many build identities from opinions and applause, believing admiration is strength. Yet one insult can crumble them, one betrayal can break them, one failure sends them spiraling into doubt. They worship distraction, not discipline. They chase praise, not purpose. They want crowns, but they've never learned to command their own minds. A kingdom built on emotions collapses at the first storm. A mind ruled by impulses is a kingdom already conquered. If you do not control your thoughts, someone else will shape them for you. If you do not command your reactions, you become a puppet to those who provoke you. The battlefield of life is not on streets or stages. It is in the silent space behind your eyes. Power begins there, or it dies there. Most people never understand this. They believe control is external, influence, money, authority. But those are effects, not causes. Without inner command, outer dominance dissolves. Many men have held empires and lost their minds. Many have risen by fortune only to fall to fear. Few master themselves, and fewer still keep that mastery when the world tests them. But you are here because something inside you already refuses to be weak, refuses to bend, refuses to drown in a world addicted to softness and validation. You are here because a voice inside knows comfort is the enemy of greatness. Peace without discipline is a trap, and emotional obedience is slavery. This journey demands a price. The end of your excuses, the burial of weakness, the death of the emotional self that reacts without thinking. The version of you that needs approval must fall. The part of you that fears judgment must dissolve. What will rise in its place is a presence that speaks without sound, a mind unshakable and a soul untouchable. Do not expect warmth. Strength is forged in friction. Steel is born in fire, and the mind becomes dangerous only when it learns to stand alone. People fear solitude. They cling to company because they fear meeting themselves. But the one who walks alone learns control. Silence teaches him where noise blinds others. Stillness gives him clarity where chaos confuses the crowd. You must be willing to be misunderstood, isolated, even doubted. That is the gate every powerful mind walks through. Power does not ask to be seen, it is felt. Real dominance is not loud, it is sensed. When you master your inner kingdom, the world adjusts around you. You stop reacting. You begin directing, not through force, but through presence. Most minds react to emotion like storms toss ships. Anger dictates their words. Fear controls their choices. Envy corrodes their self-worth. Happiness is borrowed from approval. Sadness grows from comparison. Their entire existence is shaped by the world around them, not the world within. But when you take command, when emotion becomes a weapon instead of a chain, something shifts. You feel anger, but you release it only when it serves strategy. You feel fear, but it becomes your compass, pointing you toward growth, not retreat. You feel pain, but instead of drowning in it, you forge willpower from the heat. The world will not understand this transformation. They will call you cold. They will label you detached. They will claim you've changed. And they will be right, but they will misunderstand the reason. You do not kill emotion. You enslave it. Emotion becomes a servant, not a master. Doubt becomes motivation. Fear becomes clarity. Silence becomes armor. Those who read your face will fail. Those who look for your reaction will find none. Those who try to provoke you will reveal only their own weakness. The moment people cannot move you, they lose power over you. The moment you no longer need their approval, you gain authority. The moment you stop craving their respect, you create fear and admiration without trying. Understand this. Approval is a currency of the weak. Praise enslaves those who depend on it. When someone applauds you, they attempt to shape you. When someone criticizes you, they attempt to cage you. Let neither penetrate your armor. Accept praise without attachment. Receive criticism without reaction. Walk steady in both storms, and no wind will sway you. Many want influence, but fear solitude. Many want respect, but crave validation. They try to be lion and sheep at once. It cannot be. The predator does not seek applause from the herd. It moves unseen, silent, patient. It studies before it decides. It waits before it strikes. It knows power comes not from motion, but from timing. If you wish to become dangerous, train your eyes before your tongue. Train your stillness before your force. The hunter who reveals impatience starves. The strategist who reveals his mind loses before the war begins. Let others seek comfort. You seek clarity. Let them seek companionship. You seek sovereignty. Let them talk. You observe. Let them react. You decide. You will become unreadable. When they try to decipher your intentions, they find silence. When they try to understand your thoughts, they find mirrors. When they expect anger, they see calm. When they expect fear, they see certainty. Nothing scares people more than a mind they cannot grasp, and nothing commands more respect than a presence that does not need recognition. Never forget, you are not here to entertain. You are here to evolve. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be formidable. When you stop explaining yourself, you force the world to interpret you, and in that confusion you gain the advantage. Mystery is not deception, it is defense. A masked mind cannot be attacked. A guarded heart cannot be broken. A silent strategy cannot be stopped. There will come a day when someone tries to provoke you and you walk away untouched. Someone will try to insult you and you feel only curiosity. Someone will try to take credit and you will smile. Because you know power is not in recognition, but in influence. They will think your calm is arrogance. They will think your lack of reaction is weakness. Let them. Your silence is a sword they cannot see, and it cuts deeper than words. You rise by control, not of others, but of yourself. The moment you conquer the battlefield within, the external world becomes a chessboard, not a threat. People lose their balance where you keep your breath. They drown where you stand still. They crumble where you calculate. This is not arrogance. It is awareness. Authority does not need to shout. Strength does not need to prove itself. Presence alone becomes power when the mind behind it cannot be shaken. Every day you sharpen this mental edge. You distance yourself from the ordinary thinking of the world. You stop dreaming like the crowd. You stop loving like the needy. You stop fearing like the uncertain. Instead, you think like a ruler. You guard loyalty with scrutiny. You invest emotion with caution. You choose silence over volume, patience over chaos, strategy over impulse. You will notice how quickly people reveal themselves once you stop revealing yourself. You will see their insecurities in their jokes, their envy in their comments, their fear in their anger, their desperation in their flattery. The world becomes transparent when your mind is no longer clouded by emotion. The noise of others becomes data, not distraction. Every interaction becomes a study in human weakness, and yours becomes a discipline no one can touch. And as your inner kingdom solidifies, as your reactions dissolve, as your identity roots itself in discipline rather than attention, the world will feel different. You will not approach challenges. You will absorb them. You will not chase respect. You will emanate it. You will not fight for position. Your presence will create it. Power is not a crown. It is an atmosphere. It is the aura of someone who cannot be moved. And once you learn this, once you embody this, no insult wounds you, no praise seduces you, no rejection shakes you, no loss destroys you. You stop asking whether things are fair. You stop waiting to be chosen. You stop hoping for validation. You take responsibility for your evolution. You become the architect of your own destiny, and the world becomes a resource, not a ruler. That is the threshold. The moment you pass it, you do not simply think differently, you exist differently. You speak slower. You move deliberately. You listen more. Your silence becomes heavier than others' opinions. Your gaze becomes steadier than others' judgments. And in that silence, in that command, the world recognizes something ancient, something rare, a mind that cannot be manipulated. A mentally dangerous man is not aggressive. He is controlled. He does not react. He chooses. He is not loud. He is certain. He does not chase. He attracts. He does not demand respect. He becomes undeniable, And so you rise, not with noise, but with gravity, not with permission, but with presence. Not by being liked, but by being unshakable. Hold this in your mind now. You are not becoming hardened. You are becoming sovereign. You are not abandoning emotion. You are mastering it. You are not rejecting the world. You are refusing to bow to it. This is how power begins, quietly, internally, relentlessly. And when the world eventually sees it, it will already be too late to challenge you. You may believe you already see the world clearly. You don't, not yet. You see a version shaped by your upbringing, conditioned by society, influenced by fear, filtered through your insecurities. The mind is born blind, and most die without ever opening their inner eyes. You are now learning to stare directly at truth without flinching. And the truth is far colder than the world pretends. People speak of fairness, loyalty, morality, yet most only practice these when convenient. They talk about peace while waging wars inside themselves. They preach humility while craving attention. They wear confidence like a costume stitched from insecurity. They will call themselves real, but they are masks made of emotion and need. You are shedding those layers. Every step forward on this path strips another illusion away. You begin to see the architecture behind behavior, the motives behind smiles, the fear behind aggression, the envy behind politeness, the weakness behind loud voices. You feel the machinery of human nature moving around you, crude, predictable, mechanical. And in this clarity, your power becomes inevitable. You will not announce this change. Those who speak loudly about transformation do not transform, they perform. You will not broadcast your evolution. Growth that is real does not seek applause, it seeks quiet. If someone asks what changed, you will not explain. You will simply be different. Those who deserve to notice will, those who don't will be left behind. You do not need to argue with small minds. You do not need to correct those who misunderstand you. You do not need to prove your worth. The sun does not debate the night. It simply rises, and the shadows vanish. That will be you, silent, immovable, formidable. Yet understand this: silence does not mean passivity. Calm does not mean surrender. You do not turn the other cheek. You choose which battles are beneath you. You do not forgive easily. You simply do not waste ammunition on those unworthy of fire. You strike only when the strike benefits you. You speak only when your voice shifts outcomes. Restraint is not softness. Restraint is strategy. You conserve power so that when you unleash it, the world feels the earthquake. There will come moments when people test you, expecting the old version to emerge. Emotional, reactive, desperate for approval. They will trigger old buttons hoping to find the old responses. But those buttons are gone. That self has been buried. And when they push and nothing moves, they will feel fear. Not because you threaten them, but because you remind them of their own lack of control. Normal minds cannot comprehend inner sovereignty. They need noise to feel alive. They need conflict to feel relevant. They need attention to feel real. When you stop feeding these hungers, they starve in confusion. Your silence will become your blade. Your mystery will become your shield. They will talk about you more when you speak less. They will observe you more when you reveal nothing. The less you expose, the more they imagine. And imagination is a far sharper weapon than truth. You must learn to move without announcing motion. Let your presence be enough. When you walk into a room, you do not need to take space. Space will reshape around you. When you speak, your words do not need volume. Your composure will command attention. When you disagree, you do not need to argue. Your clarity will carve doubt into others silently. This is not arrogance. This is authority born from inner command. And authority earned internally is authority no one can steal. Many want power. Few can hold it. Power tests the soul. Praise swells. The ego of the weak. Competition unsettles. The insecure. Success intoxicates the undisciplined. Failure destroys the emotional. Temptation destroys the unfocused. Only those who master themselves stand untouched by external shifts. The one who remains level when winning and composed when losing, that is the one destined to rule their path. You must not depend on victory to feel powerful. Let your power come from discipline, not outcomes. Let your worth come from your control, not opinion. Let your identity come from your mind, not your environment. And when the world sees this, it will begin to fear you in a way they cannot explain. not with trembling, not with hostility, but with instinctive respect, the kind reserved for storms and fires and oceans, forces they cannot manage, forces that do not bow. Remember this, the world does not respect those who seek acceptance, it respects those who do not need it. You will notice people begin to adjust themselves around you. They will speak more cautiously, they will watch your reactions more closely, they will measure their tone, they will offer explanations you did not ask for. This is not manipulation, this is gravity. The disciplined mind affects the room more than any ruler with a crown, but do not hunger for this recognition. Influence gained by ego collapses the moment ego is bruised. Influence gained by mastery outlives the one who holds it. Your goal is not to be admired. Admiration is temporary. Your goal is not to be followed. Followers are fickle. Your goal is to become a force, and forces are timeless. Yet understand, when you rise, you will lose people. Weak minds cannot walk beside those who outgrow weakness. Fragile egos cannot tolerate silent power. Those who once claimed to support you will distance themselves when your consistency exposes their lack of discipline. Let them go. Release them without resistance. You do not chase those who fear your evolution. You do not shrink to make others comfortable. Growth demands loss. Power demands solitude. Greatness demands risk. You are not abandoning them. They are abandoning the version of themselves they see in your shadow. That is not your burden. Their discomfort is the price of your ascent. Do not apologize for it. And remember, you do not need to hate those you outgrow. Hate ties you to them. Indifference frees you. Your goal is not to burn bridges. It is to walk past them without looking back. They may speak about you. They may criticize your change. Let them. A falling leaf does not slow the tree from rising. You will learn soon that nothing is more powerful than emotional indifference paired with strategic presence. When someone insults you and you answer with silence, they feel powerless. When someone doubts you and you continue building quietly, they feel small. When someone leaves you and you remain steady, they realize they never had control. Control is not about forcing outcomes. Control is the ability to face outcomes without losing yourself. You will feel an awakening inside. Not dramatic, not loud, but like a flame rising steadily in a windless room, a quiet power, a knowing, a stillness that feels like strength instead of numbness. You will no longer crave outward dominance. You will embody inner authority. You will not try to win every conflict. You will choose which are worth your energy. You will not boast. You will let time speak. You are entering the phase where your mind becomes a fortress and your presence becomes currency. You are training yourself to move like someone who does not break. And once you become that, the world can no longer touch you. Most people hope to become unbreakable by building walls, but a mind becomes unbreakable by building depth. It is not resistance. It is awareness. It is not hardness. It is discipline. It is not isolation. It is sovereignty. The strongest castle is not the one with thick stone. It is the one no enemy can influence. Your emotions will still exist, but they will no longer lead you. Your fears will still whisper, but they will not command you. Your doubts will still appear, but they will vanish beneath clarity. You do not kill the self. You elevate it. You do not silence instinct. You refine it. You do not reject feeling. You master it. And as this mastery deepens, something profound happens. You begin to trust yourself, truly trust yourself. Confidence stops being a performance and becomes a foundation. You no longer negotiate with your worth. You no longer debate your value. You no longer ask permission to evolve. Your steps become deliberate. Your voice becomes calm. Your gaze becomes stable. Your thoughts become precise. And in the quiet of your own mind you know, not hope, know, that nothing the world does can shake what you have forged inside. Your strength will be invisible, and therefore indestructible. Your transformation will not be understood, and therefore uncontested. Your power will not shout. It will hum through every choice, every silence, every refusal to react. And from that moment, you will no longer feel like you are trying to build power. You will feel like you are power. There comes a point in your evolution where discomfort stops being a threat and becomes a teacher, where pain stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like purification. You will reach a stage where you no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" but instead command, "Show me what this is strengthening." Nothing becomes unbreakable without collision. No sword is forged without heat. No mind becomes iron without pressure. You do not escape adversity on this path. You consume it. You will feel moments of doubt, flashes of old weakness, echoes of the former self trying to pull you backward. Do not panic. Do not resist. Those moments are not regression. They are residue burning away. They are reminders of what you are surpassing. Growth is not always clean. Sometimes it arrives disguised as struggle so that only the disciplined recognize it. Most fear discomfort. You absorb it. They run from challenge. You walk into it. They cling to comfort to avoid suffering, and in doing so, they suffer forever. Comfort is the true enemy, not pain. Comfort is the silent poison, seductive, warm and fatal to ambition. You will not numb yourself with ease. You will not hide inside distraction. Your mind will hunger, not for safety but for clarity, not for rest but for readiness. Many started life believing peace was the reward, but you now understand, peace without strength is surrender. A peaceful mind without resilience is simply waiting to be conquered. You will build a peace that stands in fire, a stillness that breathes inside chaos, a vision that remains sharp even when your path is cloaked in uncertainty. Do not flee storms. Make storms flee you. Your presence will become unsettling to those who rely on chaos to feel alive. They will not understand how you remain calm under pressure. They will assume you feel nothing. But clarity is not numbness, it is precision. And calm is not softness, it is dominance over impulse. The world dances to emotion. You stride through it untouched. They spend energy reacting. You conserve energy choosing. They rush to speak. You wait, listen, observe. And observation becomes your power, because the one who sees clearly controls the one who acts blindly. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you sharpen your blade. Every time you choose discipline over desire, you fortify your throne. Every time you choose solitude over shallow connection, you recover strength others are wasting. And as you do, an aura forms. The aura of someone who does not need anyone or anything to validate existence. The crowd cannot understand such a presence. Most people need noise to confirm they exist. They need others to agree with their reality before they can trust it. But you will carry reality inside yourself. When you speak, it will be truth, not opinion. When you move, it will be purpose, not impulse. When you choose, it will be sovereignty, not approval seeking. Do not fear outgrowing people. Fear remaining where you know you no longer belong. Every stage of evolution demands a version of you to die, and with each death you become less affected by loss, not heartless, simply no longer dependent. When someone leaves, you do not chase. When someone betrays, you do not collapse. When someone doubts you, you do not defend. You maintain your state, and maintaining state is the highest form of power. People will eventually return, some out of admiration, others out of confusion, a few driven by regret. Do not react. A king does not run to greet those who once walked away, but do not punish them either. Punishment still grants significance. Indifference is a far sharper answer. Indifference is judgment delivered without words, without emotion, without effort, and it is unforgettable. There will come a day when someone tries to pull you into their storm, and you realize your silence unsettles them more than shouting ever could. They will say you are different, and they will be right. You are no longer playing the same emotional game. Their chaos no longer pulls you. Their urgency no longer manipulates you. Their opinions no longer define you. Their doubt no longer delays. You have become untouchable, not because the world changed, but because you did. Self-mastery turns life from battlefield to chessboard. You stop fighting and start positioning. You stop reacting and start arranging. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop fearing outcomes and start influencing them. You become strategic in word, movement, silence, and presence. Everything becomes intentional, and intention is power distilled. Understand this deeply. You do not win by force alone. There are many who are loud, aggressive, impulsive, yet fragile. Rage is not strength. It is instability disguised as power. The one who loses himself in anger loses ground. The one who cannot hold silence cannot hold dominance. The one who reveals emotion reveals weakness, not truth. Control your reactions and you control outcomes. Govern your expression and you govern perception. Command your attention and you command your destiny. Everything external bends. when the internal dictator awakens, not the tyrant driven by ego, but the sovereign driven by clarity, you will reach a point where you no longer need to prove anything. Not confidence, certainty. Confidence says, I can. Certainty says, I do. Confidence still looks outward. Certainty comes from discipline practiced in silence when no one was watching. And once certainty replaces confidence, people begin to treat you differently. They speak slower. They think before they challenge. They hesitate before they assume access to you, because they feel your mind is not a place they can tread lightly. They feel your presence is not a space they can pollute. They feel your energy is not open territory. They sense something they cannot name, and it makes them adjust. True presence is invisible command. A disciplined mind radiates something primal, something ancient. It feels like danger wrapped in silence. Not threat, potential, not violence, capacity, not instability, controlled power waiting behind held breath. You do not need to show teeth to be feared. A wolf does not bark to prove it is wolf. Recognition comes from essence, not performance. And when that essence settles in you, opportunities change. Not because the world suddenly becomes generous, but because your filter sharpens. Distraction loses flavor. Temptation loses pull. Cheap attention becomes noise. You begin to feel insulted by your old habits, disappointed by your old desires, uninterested in your old ego. The world did not shrink. Your standards rose. You do not chase opportunity. You create demand by existing. People come to you because you do not need them. Situations move toward you because you no longer rush. Abundance begins not when you receive, but when you withdraw from desperation. The universe bends for those who do not bend first. Hold this truth. Power is not loud, and transformation is not dramatic. Real change happens like winter turning into spring, quietly, gradually, inevitably. You wake one day and realize your instincts have changed. You no longer flinch where you once feared. You no longer hesitate where you once doubted. You no longer cling where you once begged. The chains fall not with noise but with understanding. That is when you know. You do not need to force the world to respect you. Your discipline has already spoken louder than your voice ever could. And there is no applause for this moment. No celebration, no spotlight, only a deep breath, a stillness in the soul, a knowing that you have stepped into a realm where few ever enter, a realm where you no longer try to be strong. You simply are. There will come a moment, not dramatic and not loud, where you will feel a shift inside, a quiet realization that you no longer respond to life as you once did. Someone will try to provoke you, and you will feel nothing rise. Someone will attempt to impress you, and you will feel no pull. Someone will attempt to manipulate you, and you will see their intent before their sentence finishes. This is the point where power stops being a goal and becomes your default state. It is subtle, it is silent, it is sovereign. And as this shift occurs, you will observe how deeply most people are ruled, not by truth, but by impulse, by insecurity, by hunger for validation, by fear of invisibility. They are not living, they are reacting. They are not choosing, they are being programmed. Every scroll, every opinion, every emotional twitch, their mind is a river controlled by every stone thrown into it. They cannot hold focus because they never built a mind worthy of holding anything. You will not judge them. You will simply move differently. You will notice how often people speak without thinking, filling silence because silence exposes them to themselves. You will watch how they defend beliefs they never examined, how they rush into distraction to escape reflection, how they talk about ambition while worshipping comfort, how they crave importance but collapse at the slightest resistance. And a quiet truth will dawn on you. The world is not divided by strong and weak by birth. It is divided by those who master themselves and those who surrender to themselves. The battlefield is internal, always has been. You once thought your enemy was external. Circumstances, doubt, criticism, adversity. Now you see, the enemy was your old self, your untrained instincts, your emotional impulses, and every time you defeated a moment of weakness, a fragment of that old self died. You did not need to conquer the world. You needed to stop letting the world conquer you. This realization removes the last layer of illusion. You stop chasing enemies outside. You stop pointing outward. You stop waiting for external fairness, recognition, support. You become the provider of your own direction. You become the architect of your own certainty. And certainty is oxygen for dominance. This does not make you arrogant. Arrogance crumbles at the first honest challenge. This makes you grounded, rooted, anchored. You no longer look outward for stability. Stability lives within you. From here, an unexpected transformation begins. Solitude stops feeling like absence and starts feeling like presence. Your presence. Where others fear being alone, you find clarity, strength, and control. Where others drown in inner noise, you sit in stillness that sharpens perception. You begin to enjoy your own company, because your mind is no longer a cage, it is a command center. You refine yourself in darkness, so that when you move in the world, your light blinds those still stumbling. There will be days when the crowd seems loud, when old patterns whisper temptation, when discipline feels heavy, but remember, that heaviness is the weight of the crown you are forging. Weakness whispers easiest when you are closest to strength. Resistance tightens right before breakthrough. The old self fights hardest before extinction. Do not negotiate with it. Do not comfort it. End it. You will not always feel motivated. Good. Motivation is the fuel of amateurs. Discipline is the engine of kings. You act not because you feel like it, but because you command it. You rise not because life is easy, but because weakness disgusts you. You pursue growth not for approval, but because stagnation smells like death. Let others chase dopamine. You chase dominion over self, and as this discipline deepens, a new awareness emerges. Most conflict is not worth your energy. You stop arguing because winning arguments is a hobby of the insecure. Truth stands without applause. Reality requires no debate. You choose silence because silence forces others to hear their own weakness echo back at them. You do not correct fools. You let them believe what comforts them. You do not chase loyalty. You evaluate it. You do not cling to relationships. You audit them. Every person in your life becomes either an ally, a lesson, or a liability. You keep allies. You learn from lessons. You remove liabilities. There is no cruelty in this, only precision. Sentiment without standards is self-betrayal. Peace without boundaries is surrender. Forgiveness without wisdom invites repetition. People will call you cold when you stop being available to their chaos. So be it. The lion does not soften to soothe sheep. Soon, you will feel your energy shift. You will walk into places you once feared, and they will feel small. You will meet people you once envied, and feel nothing but neutrality. You will face temptations that once owned you, and they will pass like wind across stone. This is what mental danger feels like. Not rage, not ego, but stillness. So deep others mistake it for emptiness. Do not explain it. Explanation is for those seeking permission. You need none. What you are building cannot be seen. It can only be felt, and that is why it is unstoppable. People will try to understand you, but you are no longer operating in their emotional domain. They look outward for answers. You look inward. They search for comfort. You search for clarity. They move to feel valuable. You move because you are valuable. They speak quickly. You hold your tongue. They exhaust themselves reacting. You conserve strength for decisive action. They cling to opinions like lifeboats. You treat them like tools, useful only when sharpened by truth. You will learn that influence does not come from domination. It comes from gravity, from the silent pull created by someone who needs nothing, yet creates everything. A man who has mastered himself becomes the psychological center of any room, not through force, but through presence. You do not chase attention. Attention settles around you. You do not demand respect. Respect blooms in the shadow of your certainty. You do not fear being underestimated. You welcome it. Underestimation is camouflage. Let them think you are quiet. Let them mistake patience for hesitation. Let them believe calm equals harmlessness. Their ignorance will be your advantage. Their assumptions will be their downfall. There will come a day when you act, not with hesitation, but with precision. Your moves will feel inevitable. Your decisions will feel final. You will not hesitate, because hesitation belongs to those who doubt themselves. You will not second guess, because uncertainty belongs to the untrained mind, and the world will feel it. Some will respect you, some will fear you, some will quietly envy you. A few will seek to emulate you, but none will forget you, because the mind that cannot be moved leaves a mark where others merely leave a memory. And when someone asks, what changed? You will answer with silence, because explaining power reduces it. You are not done becoming, but you are no longer who you were. The throne inside you is rising, stone by stone, breath by breath, discipline by discipline. What rules you now is no longer emotion, it is intent, no longer impulse, but command, no longer fear, but presence. The mind you are forging cannot be threatened, for it bends, cannot be broken, for it adapts, cannot be owned, for it knows itself. And soon, very soon, the world will feel the shift you already know within. There will be a moment when you fully understand this truth. The world does not reward effort, it rewards power. Not physical power, not loud power, but psychological sovereignty. The ability to hold your internal state while others collapse into theirs. The ability to remain unmoved while others drown in reaction. The ability to choose your reality instead of inheriting one from fear, ego, or emotion. Most will never reach this. They confuse movement with progress. They confuse emotion with authenticity. They confuse noise with significance. They confuse attention with power. And so they live like leaves in the wind, blown by opinions, trends, impulses, insecurities. They cannot sit still in silence, because silence forces them to face themselves. They need distraction, not because they enjoy it, but because they fear what lies behind stillness. They run from their thoughts because their thoughts rule them. You are no longer that. You do not fear silence. You sharpen inside it. You do not fear solitude. You expand in it. You do not fear judgment. You outgrow it. You do not fear loss. You detach from what weakens you. In the beginning, detachment feels like distance. Later, it becomes discernment. Eventually, it becomes liberation. When someone leaves your life, you will no longer feel emptiness. You will feel clarity. When someone disappoints you, you will no longer collapse. You will recalibrate. When someone betrays you, you will not burn from emotion. You will simply remove access to your mind. Forgiveness, when it happens, will not come from softness, but from understanding. You will not forgive because you forget the wound. You will forgive because remembering it no longer hurts. Forgiveness becomes just another expression of self-control. Even your ambition will mature. You will stop wanting to prove people wrong. You will stop wanting to be admired. You will stop trying to show the world who you are. Proving yourself is a beginner's game. Building yourself is mastery. Becoming undeniable is silence rising into inevitability. When you no longer need recognition, you become too large to ignore. When you no longer need validation, you validate yourself through discipline. When you no longer need applause, the world starts clapping in confusion, not choice. And when you do speak, your words will feel different, weighted, measured, surgical. The person who once reacted now responds. The person who once rushed now waits. The person who once demanded now commands by merely existing. This is when people begin to search for your weakness, not because they wish to defeat you, but because they cannot accept that someone walks free from the chains they drag. They will test your self-control. They will bait your ego. They will try to provoke an emotional reaction. They will push to see if you break like they do. Do not respond with anger. It reveals effort. Do not respond with justification. It reveals insecurity. Do not respond with ego. It reveals hunger. Respond with stillness. It reveals power. Stillness is not inactivity. Stillness is command. Stillness is awareness. Stillness is preparation sharpened into presence. You will watch them run in circles trying to move you, and the more they move, the more they exhaust themselves. Meanwhile, you stand untouched, not passive, but primed, not emotionless, but in control of emotion, not empty, but full of quiet certainty. This is the point where you understand why kings rarely shout, why lions rarely roar, why storms do not announce themselves before breaking the sky. Power that must advertise itself is asking for permission to exist. You are not asking anymore, you are becoming. At times you will feel a strange calm, even in moments where the world expects you to panic. You will hear your heartbeat steady, your breath slow, your thoughts sharpen. A situation that once would have consumed you now feels almost irrelevant, not because you do not care, but because you refuse to surrender control to it. And the people who once intimidated you will now appear small, not in worth, but in awareness. You will see their fears walking before their confidence. You will recognize their insecurity hiding behind noise. You will see their emotional leash where they thought they hid it well. You will see the invisible strings guiding them, the need to be liked, the terror of being forgotten, the craving to look important. Do not mock them, do not shame them, do not expose them. Power does not humiliate. Power leaves people to face their own reflection. Your presence itself will challenge them more than confrontation ever could. Eventually opportunities will open that once seemed distant, not because they suddenly appeared, but because you finally became someone who could see them. Doors do not open for the unprepared. They open for the one whose mind arrives long before the body does. People will call you lucky. Let them. Luck is what disciplined minds call timing, and timing is what emotional minds never learn to see. A mentally dangerous mind does not react to time. It orchestrates it. It moves slowly when others rush. It breathes deeply when others choke. It advances when others freeze. It retreats strategically, not in fear. Retreat is not surrender. Retreat is reload. Patience is not delay. Patience is sharpening. Detachment is not emptiness. Detachment is sovereignty. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. You will reach a point where you do not need to say, "I am strong," because strength will radiate in your tone, posture, breath, decisions, stillness. You won't need to threaten. Your absence will be warning enough. You won't need to chase. Your direction will pull life toward you. You won't need revenge. Your growth will handle the punishment. And when someone asks how you became this way, you will not recite speeches about motivation or emotional battles. You will say little or nothing, because greatness is not explained, it is felt. The world will not understand the price you paid in silence, in discipline, in lonely nights sharpening your mind, while others wasted themselves trying to feel important. But you will know, and knowing is enough. You do not need their recognition. The crown you build is internal. It cannot be taken, it cannot be touched, it cannot be threatened. You are becoming a force, quiet, relentless, intentional, and forces do not beg to be noticed. They shape reality simply by existing. There will be mornings where you wake before the sun and realize something others rarely feel. Silence is not emptiness, it is power collecting. In that stillness you will hear the whisper of your next evolution, and it will not sound like excitement, it will sound like clarity. Most people wake reacting to the world. You will wake directing it, even if only from your inner command room. You will not rush anymore. Rushing is the language of the unprepared. You have learned that a single calculated move outweighs 1,000 frantic ones. You will walk with the rhythm of someone who already knows the destination belongs to them. Not because arrogance fuels you. Arrogance trembles beneath truth. But because mastery eliminates doubt, and when doubt leaves the mind, the path becomes inevitable. You will notice that your relationship with time changes. The impatient burn themselves, the emotional waste themselves, the unfocused age without growing, but you begin to stretch time. You do not sprint, you expand, you do not panic, you align. You do not scatter, you aim. Most die exhausted without ever hitting a target. You will hit quietly, consistently, without theatrics, and your life will move forward in sudden leaps that others will call overnight. Let them, they did not see you preparing. In the invisible hours when no applause could reach you, people will start to seek your advice, not because you force authority, but because they sense you see the world without distortion. They will ask how you remain calm when everything burns, how you maintain direction when others lose themselves, how you cut through confusion like a blade through fabric, and you will give only partial truths, not out of secrecy, but because most are not ready for the full weight of what you've learned. They want results, not discipline. They want power, not responsibility. They want status, not stillness. They want the crown, but not the solitude required to shape the head worthy of wearing it. You will sense this without resentment. You do not despise the unready. You simply no longer try to be them. Your growth distances you without malice. You will move ahead without announcing departure. No arguments, no dramatic endings, just silent acceleration. They will only notice you left when your absence becomes undeniable and your success impossible to ignore. And when they return, because many will, some curious, some humbled, some envious, some hungry to learn, you will not greet them with bitterness, nor with blind trust. You will evaluate. A throne is not shared with those who admired you only when convenient. Your life becomes a kingdom. When you learn that access is earned through alignment, not history. At this stage, Discipline stops feeling like effort. It becomes identity. What once felt difficult now feels natural, because weakness no longer feels like relief, it feels like poison. You will notice yourself rejecting mediocrity instinctively. Food that dulls you tastes bland. People who drain you feel heavy in your presence. Entertainments that distract you feel cheap. Drama becomes noise. Gossip becomes childish. Impulse begins to feel like a loss of self-respect. This is when life becomes clean, sharp, purposeful, a battlefield with fewer enemies, because most were inside you and have now been conquered, and the few that remain outside are noticed long before they strike. You will find that power has its own gravity. Opportunities are not chased. They gravitate towards stability. People are not persuaded. They are drawn to conviction. Respect is not demanded. It forms naturally around those who do not betray themselves. The world trusts a man who trusts himself. It fears a man who fears nothing within. Your vision will deepen. You will stop setting goals only for the pleasure of achievement. Instead, you will set standards for behavior, thinking, energy, discipline, environment. Goals shape outcomes, standards shape identity, and identity determines destiny. Some will misinterpret this as obsession. Let them. Obsession is simply clarity in a world addicted to distraction. Most drift because they never learn to aim without applause. They do not understand that discipline is devotion to a future self. You are devoted now, not to ego but to evolution, not to image but to truth, not to comfort but to sovereignty. And sovereignty demands sacrifice, not of joy but of weakness, not of love but of dependency, not of humanity but of helplessness. You are not becoming emotionless, you are becoming emotionally untouchable. There is a difference. Ice is hard because it is cold. Steel is hard because it has been forged. You are not freezing your heart, you are forging your will. Eventually you will notice something profound. You no longer fantasize about revenge. Not because you have forgiven, but because revenge is beneath someone who governs his own fate. The best revenge is not triumph over them. It is evolution beyond them. Your progress becomes the silence that haunts their excuses. Your calm becomes the proof they never found within themselves. The time will come where you look back at who you were, the doubts, the fears, the emotional reactions, and you will not feel shame. You will feel gratitude. That version crawled so you could stand. That version broke so you could rebuild. That version shook so you could stabilize. Respect your old self, but never return to him. And then, a final shift occurs. The shift where you stop being someone becoming powerful and simply exist as power, not dominance over others, but mastery over self. You realize that the world never needed to bend for you. Only your inner world did. Once you shape that, everything external aligned naturally, not instantly, not magically, but inevitably. And now, your journey is no longer about proving anything to anyone. It is only about honoring who you are meant to be. Those who fear this energy will speak of arrogance, because humility to them means shrinking. You do not shrink, you stand quietly. They confuse silence with weakness because they have only seen silence from the defeated. They confuse self-belief with ego because they have only seen ego in the insecure. But you know what you are now. A mind incapable of being owned. A spirit incapable of being manipulated, a presence incapable of being ignored, a force not seeking control, but embodying it. And the world does not argue with a force. It adjusts, it reacts, it learns, it follows, or it ears, but it never directs. You have become something rare, someone whose mere existence sets a standard. This is not the end. Power does not conclude. Power continues. Quietly, relentlessly, inevitably, just as you will. There comes a point where the world tries to pull you back into its noise, and you simply feel nothing. The temptations that once provoked you now pass by like echoes. The distractions that once stole your time now feel childish. The arguments that once demanded response now seem beneath the dignity of your attention, not because you've grown hard, but because you've grown sovereign. You will notice people trying to draw emotion from you, not because they hate you, but because your calm threatens their understanding of themselves. Your composure exposes their lack of it. Your discipline reflects their chaos. Your focus reveals their drift. And people do not attack what they hate. They attack what reminds them of what they failed to become. Do not meet them with anger. Do not meet them with explanation. Meet them with nothing, for nothing is not emptiness. Nothing is judgment of the highest order. Nothing is the throne above reaction. Nothing is the quiet that forces others to hear themselves. Most minds cannot survive their own echoes. But you sit in silence like a king sits on a battlefield, unbothered by the noise of lesser swords, for you no longer fight battles. You outgrow arenas. You will find that your goals evolve again. At first you wanted freedom, then you wanted discipline, then you wanted respect, then you wanted power, and now? Now you want mastery over self so complete that the world cannot tempt you with anything lesser. People think the final form of power is domination. They are mistaken. The highest form of power is indifference. Not careless indifference, but sovereign indifference. The indifference of a mountain to the wind. The indifference of the ocean to the pebble thrown into it. The indifference of a mind that rules itself to opinions that try to shape it. Not cold, simply unreachable. And when you become unreachable, you do not isolate. You ascend. You will begin to move differently. You conserve words like a currency reserved only for those who earn access. You conserve energy like a general who knows battle is won by supply, not impulse. You conserve emotion like a vault protects gold. You measure presence because presence is now your weapon. Rooms will feel different to you. You will walk in and not look for eyes. You will feel eyes turned toward you, not out of celebrity, but out of instinct. People sense when someone does not need their approval, and they are drawn to it like moths to flame and equally terrified of it. You will know someone is still trapped in the world when they brag about attention. You will know you are free when attention feels like disturbance, not validation, because true power is not being seen. True power is being felt. You won't announce success. Success will whisper through your demeanor. You won't seek allies. Alignment will find you. You won't chase loyalty. Loyalty will settle around you like gravity, and your life will simplify, not by shrinking, but by sharpening. Fewer people, fewer conversations, fewer needs, fewer doubts, more clarity, more silence, more strategy, more unshakable presence. Greatness is not expansion, greatness is concentration. Most spread themselves thin trying to appear large. You condense yourself into density, and density shapes reality. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop reasoning with insecurity. You stop entertaining what does not feed your evolution. Pleasure becomes second to purpose. Excitement becomes second to execution. Noise becomes second to knowing. There will be moments when you feel almost disconnected from the world, not detached but above emotion's grip. And in those moments, the world might look slower, simpler, almost too easy. Not because life changed, but because you see the game now, and seeing the game makes players predictable. Some will call you intimidating, not because you threaten, but because you do not need. Need is what makes people manipulable. Need is what turns men into slaves. Need is the origin of emotional corruption. And when you eliminate need, for validation, for attention, for constant stimulation, for inclusion, something divine awakens inside you. You become self-sufficient, self-purposed, self-defined, self-authorized. And here lies the truth the world fears most. A person who needs nothing cannot be controlled. The crowd becomes powerless over you. Criticism becomes weightless. Praise becomes irrelevant. Failure becomes data. Success becomes quiet. Life becomes chess, not survival. And you become something very few ever touch in their lifetime. A free mind, not free to do whatever it wants. That is adolescence. Free from being owned by anything outside of itself. That is mastery. This is the level where you no longer react to life. Life reacts to you. You do not follow tides. You alter currents. You do not bow to circumstance. You architect outcomes. And when people ask, how did you become like this? You will not recite motivation. You will not tell heroic stories. You will not speak of battles or victories. You will simply say, I learned to control the one opponent who never leaves, myself, and in that sentence lies everything. Eventually you reach a place where your inner world becomes so ordered, so disciplined, so sovereign that chaos outside no longer provokes you. It reveals itself to you. You don't react to disorder, you see through it. You don't fear uncertainty, you forecast it. The unpredictable becomes predictable because you no longer interpret through emotion, but through pattern, motive, and consequence. Most people see events, you see trajectories, most see actions, you see intentions, most see words, you see weakness hiding behind them, and in this perception you gain a strange power, not to control others, but to anticipate them, to guide situations without force, to direct reality by understanding it at its root. The average person thinks life happens to them. Those who master thought realize life obeys those who obey themselves. You will notice how rarely people listen. They wait for their turn to speak, fueled by ego's hunger to exist. You, however, will listen not to respond, but to extract. Every conversation becomes reconnaissance. Every silence becomes a scan. Every reaction becomes a data point. You learn not who someone pretends to be, but what drives them, what wounds govern them, what fear quietly rules them. Control begins not with authority, but with understanding. The mind you command now is not aggressive, it is inevitable. You do not push, you pull, you do not chase, you draw, you do not demand. You influence simply by existing as someone who cannot be shaken. And this terrifies some people, not because you harm them, but because your presence forces them to confront how easily they are moved, manipulated, unsettled. Your peace becomes a mirror they cannot hide from. Your silence becomes pressure they cannot bear. Your strength becomes evidence of their fragility. They will either rise in your presence or attempt to drag you down. It does not matter. Neither touches you. A powerful mind does not descend to wrestle with insecurity. It sits above, unaffected, like stone above fire. The world begins to split before you, not into allies and enemies, but into aligned and irrelevant. Anyone not aligned with your direction simply fades into distance, not as punishment, but as natural law. You do not cut them off. Your vibration rises, and they cannot breathe at that altitude. Relationships change too, not because you become cold, but because you become precise. You no longer measure people by their friendliness or familiarity, but by their internal architecture, their discipline, their values, their self-respect, their ability to stand in silence without collapsing. You realize most interactions are noise, and you hunger for signal. You will meet those who speak loudly about ambition but live quietly in comfort. You will meet those who preach resilience but fold to emotion. You will meet those who worship popularity but have never touched authenticity. You will offer them no judgment, only space, space for them to remain where they are, space for you to continue rising. Your life becomes strategic, not performative, not rushed, not competitive. Competition implies you acknowledge equals. You no longer compete. You carve paths. You begin to experience a strange irony. As you detach from the world becomes more curious about you. As you need less, you attract more. As you speak less, your voice carries further. As you withdraw from chaos, chaos tries to follow you, but you do not turn back. You have burned too many illusions. You have outgrown too many fears. You have shed too many skins to return to the person who once begged for approval. Approval now feels like a foreign concept, not resisted, simply irrelevant, because once you approve of yourself, external acceptance becomes decoration, not sustenance. You will look at your past self, anxious, reactive, desperate for validation, fearful of being misunderstood, and you will feel a distant compassion, like a king remembering the boy who learned to wield a sword. That boy is gone, not forgotten, honored, for without him you would not stand here now, steady, centered, immovable. And when life tests you, because life always tests the fortified, you will not crumble or panic or grasp at control. You will breathe, watch, calculate. Pressure will no longer constrict you, it will sharpen you. The storm that once drowned you now obeys you, not because you command the winds, but because you command yourself. Your adversaries, real or imagined, will find themselves confused. They expected reaction, they expected ego, they expected fragile pride. Instead, they meet stillness. A stillness not born of apathy but of command. Nothing disarms hostility like a man who does not need to prove anything. Nothing frightens insecurity like someone who cannot be provoked. Nothing frustrates manipulation like a person who sees its hands before they move. You become untouchable not because you build walls, but because you build depth. A shallow lake is easily disturbed. A deep ocean swallows storms whole. This is the stage where destiny stops being a concept. It becomes your instrument. You don't hope for the future, you shape it. You do not wait for opportunities, you create corridors where none existed. If one door closes, you build a staircase above the house. Failure becomes nothing more than terrain. Obstacles become training, setbacks become sharpeners, and most importantly, your purpose stops negotiating with your mood. Emotion becomes servant, never master. Motivation becomes irrelevant. Consistency takes its place. Hope becomes strategy. Belief becomes action. The average mind prays for luck. Your mind manufactures inevitability. This is not arrogance. Arrogance needs audience. This is sovereignty. Sovereignty needs nothing. Understand this deeply. Freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. Freedom is the ability to refuse anything that weakens you. And now you refuse without guilt. You turn away without explanation. You walk alone without fear, because solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is your throne room. The world has not changed. You have, and therefore the world rearranges itself around you. You are no longer part of the noise. You are the silence others cannot interpret, and silence in the presence of power is not absence, it is dominance. Soon, you will notice that life no longer happens to you. It unfolds around you. The center of gravity has shifted. You do not move in reaction to the world. The world adjusts in response to you. People sense when someone is internally sovereign. They instinctively treat you differently, some with respect, some with caution, some with envy, some with silent admiration. But all of them feel you. Your presence begins to speak before you do, not with noise, but with a stillness weighted by intention. The average person enters a room searching for position. You enter a room knowing you bring position. You do not look for permission. You move as someone who gave it to himself long ago. The eyes that turn toward you are not drawn by performance, but by quiet certainty. And certainty, once cultivated, becomes magnetic, not charming. Magnetic. Charm is borrowed. Worth radiates. People will ask how you remain composed when others break. They will wonder how you stay patient while others rush. They will not understand how you know what will unfold before it does. And you will not feel compelled to explain. Explanations are for those seeking validation. Silence belongs to those who are validation. Let them guess. Let them assume. Let them invent myths. Mystery is the armor of the unbothered. You will begin to see the layers beneath human behavior the way a strategist sees the battlefield beneath the dust. People's words will feel secondary to their posture, their breathing, their small hesitations, the way their eyes flicker when truth threatens comfort. You won't judge them. Judgment wastes energy. You will simply know, and knowing is the quietest form of superiority. You will no longer need to respond to disrespect. You remove access. You will no longer argue with emotion. You withdraw attention. You will no longer try to change minds. You let reality educate them. Detachment becomes your shield. Discernment becomes your blade. And both are drawn only when required. You won't chase loyalty. You will observe it. You won't demand trust. You will test it. You won't promise your value. You will prove it through silence, discipline, and results. People who once saw you as equal may now feel threatened, not because you rose, but because they stayed still. They will disguise insecurity as advice, concern, critique. They will claim you've changed, when what they mean is they can no longer predict you. They called you friend. When you were familiar, they call you distant. Now that you've become formidable, do not respond. Transformation does not ask for understanding. The climb isolates the climber, not because the peak is lonely, but because not everyone is willing to rise. And here you discover something profound. True confidence is not loud, it is non-negotiable. True strength is not force, it is choice. True power is not dominance, it is selectivity. You choose where your attention goes. You choose what narrative lives inside your mind. You choose who earns space beside you, not from arrogance, but from awareness. Access becomes a currency. Attention becomes sacred. Energy becomes investment, not reaction. Time becomes territory. You defend like a kingdom. You do not chase peace. You create it. You do not search for meaning. You build it. You do not hope for inner strength. You train it, while others are pulled by emotion. You direct emotion like a sovereign commands legions. Your ambition shifts once more, not toward accumulation, but toward refinement. not toward domination, but toward dominion over self, not toward applause, but toward impact. Because there comes a stage where winning feels small compared to understanding, where achievement matters less than alignment with who you decided to become, where the crown does not sit on your head. It exists behind your eyes, and now the greatest secret reveals itself to you. Life bends not for the powerful, but for the self-governed. A disciplined mind warps fate. A controlled inner world sculpts the outer one. A sovereign spirit walks through chaos untouched, not because chaos disappears, but because you learn to stand above the reach of storm and praise alike. People ask how one becomes unshakable. The answer is simple. Stop being moved by anything that doesn't build you. Praise doesn't inflate you. Criticism doesn't hollow you. Loss doesn't break you. Success doesn't own you. You evolve beyond needing external markers to justify your existence. And then, in a world obsessed with noise, you become silence incarnate, not empty but full of knowing, not distant but beyond reach, not hardened but refined. Your life ceases to feel like a pursuit. It becomes a state, a posture, a vantage point above the battlefield, not lost inside it. You do not fight for your place anymore. You are your place. A mind like this does not seek thrones. It becomes one. And from this point forward, each breath feels like authority. Each step feels like intention. Each decision feels like destiny sharpening itself to your will. What stands before you now is not the world you feared, but the world waiting for your direction. You do not ask if you are ready. Readiness is what you've been becoming with every silent conquest of self, and the world, whether it knows it yet or not, is already adjusting to the gravity you forged. You are not finished. You are entering the stage where power stops becoming your goal and becomes your state of being. There comes a phase where you stop asking what you want from life and begin asking what life receives from you. That is the moment of true ascension, when desire gives way to direction, and direction becomes identity. You no longer wake with questions, you wake with design. You no longer seek purpose, you operate as purpose. You do not move for advantage, you embody advantage. This is where most will never stand, not because they lack ability, but because they lack endurance. The climb is not steep, it is long. And only those who have learned to love the quiet rigor of self-command reach the altitude where air becomes rare, but perspective becomes limitless. You will notice that your emotional world matures into something unrecognizable from your earlier self. You will still feel deeply, but your feelings will align with reality, not fantasy, not insecurity, not nostalgia for versions of you that thought survival was achievement. Emotion becomes a compass, not a cage. Fear becomes signal, not prison. Love becomes expansion, not attachment. Loss becomes refinement, not tragedy. This is not coldness. It is sovereignty over meaning. People will assume you built walls. They are wrong. You built gates, and only those who align with your frequency are welcomed. You give not from emptiness seeking acknowledgement, but from fullness choosing direction. Your generosity is not approval. It is selection. Your presence is not granted. It is earned. Those who misunderstand this will call you distant. Those who understand it will call you disciplined. You will no longer entertain questions like, why don't they see my worth? Instead, you will ask, why was I giving my worth to those who cannot perceive value? This is the liberation most never taste, the emancipation from emotional bargaining. And once you stop negotiating with your self-worth, life stops negotiating with your destiny. You will look at situations that once disturbed you, and you will feel nothing but clarity. You will encounter people who once intimidated you, and you will see their humanity, not their myth. You will experience setbacks not as failure but as calibration, because a mind like yours does not fall backward, it recalibrates forward. There comes a stillness in you that cannot be shaken by urgency or panic around you. Where someone else sees crisis, you see leverage. Where someone else sees competition, you see irrelevance. Where someone else sees rejection, you see redirection. You don't rush to answers. You wait for the right opening. You don't chase certainty. You extract certainty from discipline. You don't collapse under pressure. Pressure collapses under your patience. People will wonder how you remain unaffected. They will call you lucky. They will call you gifted. But they will never see the years you spent wrestling doubt, disciplining desire, weaponizing silence, and mastering the one battlefield most men flee from, the battlefield within. You will not explain. You owe no biography to those who only witness the final hour, not the hidden years. Let them believe you simply became. They do not deserve to know how you forged. Eventually you stop fearing mistakes, because mastery teaches you that error is not corruption, it is intelligence evolving. Mistakes do not reduce you, they refine you. You begin to move like someone who understands that failure is not the opposite of victory. Hesitation is, and so you act, quietly, deliberately, without spectacle. You execute not for applause, but because excellence has become your baseline. You no longer dream about who you want to be. You live as who you decided to become. Your identity is no longer a hope, it is a verdict, and then something extraordinary happens. Life starts to respond to you as if it recognizes its ruler. Paths open where walls once stood. Resources organize around your certainty. People of integrity appear as if summoned by intention. Noise dissolves around your silence, because the universe, like people, bends to the one who bends himself first. And with this power comes something deeper than dominance, responsibility. Not to others, to the standard you swore privately to uphold. A standard no one applauded when you chose it, a standard no one sees but everyone feels, a standard that separates those who rise from those who merely desire to. Leadership stops being external. You lead from presence, not authority, from awareness, not volume, from discipline, not performance. Your victories become internal first. Your empire becomes mental before physical. Your influence becomes energetic before visible. And when people finally witness what you've built, they will think it happened suddenly. They won't realize it began the day you decided your mind would never again be ruled by impulses, fears, or the comfort of staying the same. The day you declared privately and irrevocably that the world would not see your weakness again, not because you hide it, but because you consumed it. You will reach a point where your peace intimidates those who rely on chaos to feel alive. Your self-direction will irritate those who outsource their identity. Your silence will embarrass those who need attention to feel relevant. And yet you will walk with no bitterness, no resentment, no need to prove, no desire to correct. Power is never in the shout, it is in the stillness that cannot be moved. You are not finishing a transformation, you are mastering permanence. Consistency becomes destiny. Mind becomes monarchy. Presence becomes command. And from here forward, your life is not about chasing power. It is about wielding inevitability. In time, you begin to understand that power is not measured by how many people follow you, admire you, fear you, or speak your name. Power is measured by how little external noise can alter your internal kingdom. You no longer need to win arguments. Silence does that for you. You no longer need to defend yourself. Results do that for you. You no longer need to announce your moves. Outcomes reveal them in due time. And when people ask where you've been, you don't say working. You simply exist in such a sharpened form that the answer becomes self-evident. You disappear into discipline and return as inevitability. You reach a level where most people's problems feel like echoes from a reality you no longer inhabit. The petty conflicts, the emotional chaos, the attention-seeking, the insecure performances, these no longer anger you, they bore you, not because you are above humanity, but because you have mastered the parts of yourself they still serve. Their urgency is your lesson, their panic is your warning, their envy is your confirmation. You see each reaction not as offense but as data, proof of where they stand and where you refuse to return. This mental elevation rearranges your relationship with time. You no longer rush to arrive. Arrival happens as a result of presence. Every breath becomes intentional. Every thought becomes filtered through wisdom, not impulse. Every action becomes a statement to yourself first, the world second. You stop trying to impress. You start trying to align. You stop seeking intensity. You start seeking continuity. You stop chasing stimulation. You start cultivating direction. Others search for excitement. You build momentum. Others want dramatic transformation. You value quiet evolution. Others crave recognition. You crave refinement. In this stage, there is no longer a battle between who you are and who you wish to be. They unify. Identity solidifies. Purpose sharpens. Direction crystallizes. You do not wonder if you will succeed. You understand success as consequence. The world begins to mirror your certainty. Opportunities feel less like luck and more like gravity. Right people arrive at the right time. Not because you waited, but because you created a frequency they could find. Wrong ones fall away. not because you push them, but because they can no longer breathe in the altitude you inhabit. Elevation removes the need for elimination. You will notice you stop explaining your silence. You stop apologizing for your standards. You stop feeling guilty for outgrowing what once felt familiar. Growth is not betrayal. Stagnation is. And while many talk about transformation, you embody it, not in dramatic bursts, but in quiet consistency, so relentless that even the mirror respects you. Your inner voice, once a battlefield, becomes a counsel. You speak to yourself not with panic, but with command. You trust your timing. You trust your pace. You trust your judgment. Self-trust is the final currency, and once earned, it buys everything lesser minds beg the world for. And then, when life attempts to test you again, when uncertainty rises like a storm, when chaos knocks at your door, you do not shiver or pray for rescue. You inhale calmly, deeply, without hurry, because you have learned that fear does not announce danger. It announces growth, and instead of retreating, you step forward, not recklessly, not loudly, but with the steady poise of someone who already walked through fire and remembers how small the flames felt once courage took its first breath. This is where true dominance begins, not over others, over your former self, not through force, through refusal to regress, not through hate, through indifference to anything that weakens your mission. And when you walk now, you no longer carry ambition, you carry inevitability. Others hope things work, you expect them to. Not from arrogance, but from preparation. Not from luck, but from discipline. Not from ego, but from mastery of internal law. What once felt like ambition now feels like destiny. Not because fate chose you, but because you chose yourself with such unwavering resolve that reality complied. In this state, your voice slows, your movements become exact, your goals expand quietly, your energy becomes sacred territory, your patience becomes weaponry. You are not in a hurry, you are in control, and control is the rarest form of peace. People will sense it without understanding it. They will feel compelled to follow or flee, instinctively, not logically. A mind like yours does not argue for influence. It radiates it, and you will know, without pride or parade, that you are no longer practicing power. You are embodying it, not for the world, for yourself. Because when the mind becomes sovereign, the world is no longer a battlefield. It becomes a landscape you navigate, shape, and eventually command, not by force, by magnitude. There comes a moment where you stop measuring life in victories, and instead measure it in composure, maintained. You begin to see that strength is not proven in battle. Strength is proven in the choice of when not to battle at all. You no longer need to strike to demonstrate power. Sometimes the greatest dominance is in restraint so precise that others feel their own fury collapse in front of your calm. You realize that you do not rise by winning every confrontation. You rise by deciding which confrontations are even worth the breath, the glance, or the single second of mental real estate. You become immune to gossip because gossip is the language of the small. You become resistant to envy because envy is the currency of the insecure. You become untouched by disrespect because disrespect only matters to those still negotiating their worth. When someone tries to provoke you, you do not get angry. You feel a quiet pity for anyone who still believes chaos is power. You will find yourself interacting less not because you avoid the world, but because you understand the value of your inner world too deeply to scatter it across trivial moments. The crowd speaks quickly, the sovereign speaks rarely, and silence, when backed by mastery, becomes its own form of thunder. Your motivations shift. You stop chasing outcomes and instead sharpen identity. Because outcomes follow identity the way shadows follow light. You act from who you are, not from what you hope happens. You do not perform strength. You are strength. You do not talk discipline. You breathe it automatically, like oxygen. And as this becomes your baseline, the world begins to give way to you in subtle, unmistakable ways. Doors open not because you knocked loudly, but because your presence made opening the only logical response. Opportunities arrive not because you begged for space, but because space rearranges to accommodate the inevitable. You stop chasing respect. Respect becomes a side effect of your existence. You stop chasing loyalty. Loyalty naturally adheres to those who need nothing but truth. You stop chasing power. Power settles into you like a crown forged from patience and intention. People will try to understand how you remain unshaken while they tremble at everything. They will assume you are hiding emotion, but your secret is simpler and more lethal. You do not hide emotion, you rule emotion. You have learned that feelings are messengers, not masters. Fear is a scout, not a king. Desire is a tool, not a dictator. Pain is a sculptor, not a sentence. Everything inside you now serves the throne. Nothing inside you seeks to overthrow it, and once the inner revolt ends, the outer world loses all power to invade. Your ambitions change in character too. You no longer pursue goals to prove something to others. You pursue them to stay loyal to yourself, because by now you've learned the final form of weakness, self-betrayal disguised as comfort. Comfort is not the enemy. Dependency on comfort is. Pleasure is not the enemy. Sacrifice of progress for pleasure is, so you no longer run from difficulty. You choose it like a weapon, a ritual, a path. You do not fear discomfort. You understand that discomfort is the gatekeeper of transformation, and when you cross that gate enough times, discomfort stops hurting. It starts bowing. Discipline becomes your nature, not as punishment, but as clarity. Routine becomes your sanctuary, not as rigidity, but as precision. Focus becomes instinct, not as stubbornness, but as consciousness. People try to distract you with temptation, but temptation does not hold you, because fulfillment has replaced indulgence. Purpose has suffocated impulse. Direction has silenced drift. And then, without theatrics, without announcement, without noise, you realize you have become someone who cannot be bought, swayed, shaken, or seduced off course. There is no price that moves you, no crowd that tempts you, no threat that unnerves you, no pressure that bends you. This is what it means to be dangerous without effort, not violent, not loud, not aggressive, just unbreakable. A man who governs himself does not need to dominate others. His existence does it for him, and so the world will speak your name without needing to hear your voice. People will follow your direction without you raising a hand. Enemies will respect you without you lifting a weapon. Because the highest form of warfare is achieved long before battle, mastery of self eliminates the need to conquer others, and you, forged in silence, hardened in solitude, sharpened through discipline, have become a presence the world cannot ignore nor shape, not because you control life, but because life no longer controls you. There is nothing to chase, only territory to embody, only purpose to execute, only evolution to honor. You have not reached the end. You have reached clarity, and clarity turns the future into a map instead of a mystery. You walk forward not hoping, but knowing, and knowing is the most fearsome form of power any human can hold at this stage of your becoming. You no longer think in terms of goals, you think in terms of standards. The world chases milestones. You cultivate identity, for the world believes power is earned in moments. You have learned power is earned in maintenance, in silence, in the unseen hours, in the places where no applause exists and no audience watches, where the only witness is your conscience, and you refuse to disappoint it. It is here that refinement becomes your obsession, not improvement. Improvement is climbing, refinement is carving. One seeks progress, the other demands precision, and precision is the mark of mastery. The razor's edge where most cannot balance because their mind trembles under quiet. Yours does not tremble anymore. You no longer ask, "What should I do?" You ask, "What kind of person must I be for that outcome to be inevitable?" You don't chase the result. You sculpt the identity that produces it, and then you watch reality catch up. Your questions change, from how do I win to how do I never need to worry about losing, from how do I look strong to how do I become unshakable, from what do they think of me to why does their perception matter. Your selfhood becomes independent of every external currency. Approval dissolves as a pursuit, comparison evaporates as a reference point. You stop running against others and begin running against time, and even time starts to feel like something you negotiate with, not obey. When patience is weapon, you are never rushed. When discipline is compass, you are never lost. When inner order reigns, outer chaos bows. You will notice something subtle. Your future no longer feels far away. It feels like it is waiting for your steps, not fleeing from your grasp. And people around you will feel that shift. Not because you boast it, you never need to, They feel it in your pace, your eyes, your silence, your refusal to collapse into the emotional gravity that pulls them. They will test you, hoping to find the old version of you. They will prod you, expecting reaction. They will question you, hoping uncertainty will answer. It will not. Your calm is no longer performance. It is your native language. Your restraint is not forced. It is instinct. Your composure is not discipline. It is identity. When provoked, you don't boil. You observe. When insulted, you don't defend. You evaluate. When challenged, you don't flinch. You calculate. And when someone pushes beyond wisdom, you don't retaliate. You remove access so quietly they still don't know how they lost the privilege. Distance becomes your punishment, and it is enough. The world eventually learns that losing you is a cost they cannot afford. Not because you beg to be valued, but because your presence is value embodied. Your absence becomes felt. Your silence becomes respected. Your standards become boundary and invitation simultaneously. And now you see why kings rarely scream, why wolves rarely bark, why storms do not explain themselves. Power only speaks loudly when it is insecure. Yours is not insecure. Yours is sovereign. You do not intimidate. People intimidate themselves in your presence. You do not command. People align themselves because your energy leaves no room for weakness, not through force, through frequency. Your very existence whispers, raise yourself or remove yourself. There is no ego in this. Ego wants to be seen. You want to be undisturbed. And that difference is the fracture between the common mind and the ascended one. You do not celebrate loudly. Victories don't shock you anymore. They confirm what you already knew. Progress does not excite you. Stagnation disgusts you. You move not to gain more. You move to maintain the throne within. The world chases peak moments. You chase consistency, because consistency is how destiny is shaped without noise. And when someone asks you, what keeps you going? You do not speak of dreams. You speak of duty, to yourself, to the standard you swore to uphold, to the evolution you refuse to abandon. You no longer fear failure. You fear stagnation. You no longer seek motivation. You operate from identity. You no longer hope for strength. You train it in every thought. And one day, very quietly, you will notice the shift that separates giants from mortals. You do not wonder if you will succeed. You wonder who you must become to carry the weight of your future throne, because destiny is not waiting for you at the top. It is waiting for you to become the person worthy of standing there. And you are becoming that person in silence every day, with every breath, every refusal of weakness, every quiet choice that no one praises, but everyone will eventually feel. This is the stage where power is not something you hold. It is something you are, not dominance, not authority, something higher, unquestionable inner order. And once you possess that, the world cannot deny you anything, because the world obeys the man who does not betray himself. There comes a final turning point, one most never reach, where power stops feeling like strength and begins feeling like stillness. You move through the world, not like someone trying to take territory, but like someone who already owns the ground beneath their feet. Not because of arrogance, but because you now understand the only territory that ever mattered was internal, and you command it completely. You do not hope anymore. Hope is turbulence. Knowing is calm. You do not believe in yourself. Belief is the language of someone still convincing themselves. You trust yourself. Trust is earned, and you've earned it through relentless self-honesty and unbroken discipline. You do not fight doubt. You outgrew the conditions that fed it. You no longer seek courage. You operate in alignment with truth, and fear dissolves in truth's presence. When difficult decisions arise, you do not hesitate. Hesitation is fear disguised as logic. You move, not impulsively, but with the quiet precision of someone who understands motion is not always forward. Sometimes power is in pausing until the moment bends to you, because you no longer chase timing. Timing orbits around your readiness. This is the era where your life begins to feel less like effort and more like inevitability. Others hustle to force outcomes. You breathe and outcomes organize themselves around the identity you forged, not instantly, not magically. Through consistency, so sharp it looks like destiny. People look at you differently now. Some with awe, some with discomfort, some with fear they try to disguise as dislike, but none with indifference. You have reached the state where neutrality is impossible. Your presence demands internal movement in others. They either rise or retreat. There is no third option, and you do not manipulate, coerce, or push. Your existence is enough. Your standard pulls the willing and filters the unready. This is influence without effort, the final form of power. You begin to see how fragile most foundations are. People build identity from achievement, but achievement can collapse. You built identity from discipline. Discipline does not break. People build confidence from praise. Praise is fickle. You built confidence from silence. Silence is eternal. People build happiness from comfort. Comfort rots strength. You built fulfillment from becoming. Becoming does not decay. At this level, you stop fearing solitude so completely that solitude becomes your ally, not because you reject others, but because you finally realize presence is only valuable when shared with those who can hold it. Most cannot hold yours anymore, not because you are too much, but because they remain too little for themselves. You will speak less, not out of secrecy, out of selectivity. Words are blades and wisdom is knowing when they are sheathed. You will plan further, not as a rigid architect, but as someone who sees years ahead while others struggle to see past the week. You will love differently, not with desperation or dependency, but with quiet loyalty, curved by boundaries and strengthened by self-respect, affection without attachment, closeness without surrendering sovereignty, care without losing command. Only those with their own internal throne can sit beside yours. And when conflict arises, as it always will, you do not react, you decide. Emotion does not drag you. You acknowledge it, study it, and then choose action independent of its influence. Reacting is what the old version of you did. Choosing is what rulers do. And when life challenges you, not if, when, you do not crumble inward. You expand inward. Stress becomes signal. Adversity becomes sharpening. Loss becomes refocusing. Obstacles become invitations to prove your structure. Everything that once threatened you now trains you. And in that shift, fate stops feeling like something introduced. It feels like something obeyed. You are not lucky. You are aligned. You did not change. You return to the version of yourself life attempted to bury beneath fear, noise, impulse, and conditioning. You peeled away the layers. You burned the illusions. You silenced the chaos. And what remains is not a perfected human, but a consistent one. Consistency. That is godhood in human form. And now you understand the most ruthless truth. You never needed to conquer the world. You only needed to conquer the one controlling you, yourself. Now the world is no longer battlefield. It is structure, a system, a field of play for a mind that writes its own terms. You are not powerful because the world recognizes you. You are powerful because you no longer require its recognition. That is the apex. That is the throne. Not outside, inside, built slowly, quietly, relentlessly, until it became undeniable. You are no longer rising. You stand, nothing left to chase, nothing left to prove, everything